Great. And I'll hand it over to Jenny and Heather.
Okay. And we've been coming to these for a while, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Jenny Michaels. I'm instructional designer slash instructional technology specialist at Shippensburg University in South Central Pennsylvania. And I've been here not very long, since December, but I've been hopping around doing this job for probably about 10 years now.
Yeah, and I'm Heather Kretschmer. I work at the University of Göttingen in Germany. I'm a coordinator and instructor of business English and intermediate English, and I've been teaching there since about 2013. So I've been there for a while. All right.
Yay. And thanks for coming to our session on, we call it Group Me Pedagogy, only because Group Me and Pedagogy kind of rhyme. And it rolls off the tongue a little easier than what Christina said. uh, but we want to talk a little bit about when we say messaging apps, what are we talking about? And there are three icons on the slide, one representing connection, one representing video and photo, and one representing communication. Where's our definition? So there it is. Okay. Um, anyway, but what we're talking about is basically it's an app or a tool that's available for quick, easy communication. So I think most of us have used it probably in some form or another, which we'll get to soon. But it could be real time or asynchronous. It could be text or voice or video or multimedia. Um, these apps usually allow file sharing, reactions, notifications. And like I said, the handy thing is we can do most of this with a smartphone, so we don't have to be at our computer to communicate.
Yeah. And I'm sure there are many different messaging apps, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. For example, the Zoom chat, and by the Zoom chat, I don't mean what you see in the Zoom in our meeting here, but rather a separate app. Also, GroupMe, Slack, WhatsApp, Signal, and Discord. Those are some. And we're just curious as to how you use, in what context you use messaging apps and which ones. And I'll put this link in the chat in a moment. But which apps do you use in which circumstances? So hang on a
Yeah.
second. Let me
And
find the
I will
chat.
say, I meant to say this at the beginning. The we have a faculty member here who uses Zoom chat just brilliantly with his classes, and that's kind of what inspired me to put this out there is, hey, could we be doing more with these messaging apps that are available? So that's kind of what started it. But yeah, if you'll take a second and take our little survey.
Jenny, does the faculty member use the students' phone numbers for Zoom chat?
No, you don't have to have the phone number. If he makes them go in through Shippensburg does have a Zoom license, campus license,
Okay,
which is why he
okay.
chose that. And um, basically, he has them sign in through the Ship app, and it doesn't. There's no phone number involved at all. But he does it on his phone, and he does some pretty cool things with it.
I asked because we had faculty who were using the SMS chat feature in Zoom and
Yeah.
they were breaking FERPA because they were asking students for phone numbers. So that's interesting to know about. I'll have to check
No,
that out.
it's the
Thank you.
only downside about it is like he has to basically, I think he either sends out an invite and has them sign in, or he has to put them in. We don't have a way to get
Okay.
them directly in. We don't have like a, pushes the students to a class. Well, he can't do that with the
Mm-hmm.
Zoom. He's
Okay.
asked us about it, but we haven't come up with a solution for that yet. So
Mm.
if you had a lot, but you could send a link out to students and have them kind of
Sure.
self-enroll. So, but yeah, no, it's through that. And Heather and I tested out the Zoom chat, and we were able to chat back and forth, even though we have two different
Hmm.
Zoom licenses. So you don't have to have a license. I think it helps. All right. So we got the survey results.
Yeah, I was just going to get those
Yep.
up. Hang on a second. Responses, three responses so far.
Well, I didn't respond and you didn't respond
That's
and
true. So
just
I think I can share those responses then, yes.
and if the moderators want to chime in, they can.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like in personal life, participants are using Slack, WhatsApp, Signal, Discord, Google Spaces. Professional life, Slack, WhatsApp, Discord, Google Spaces, and Microsoft Teams.
Mhm.
And then with students, okay, interesting. Google Spaces and Canvas
Canvas
Commons,
Commons.
cool.
Okay. Yeah. And I will say we chose not to do Teams because of the Microsoft affiliation. And for it to really work with students, you have to be sure you're at a Microsoft school, which didn't seem universal enough to us to be um, as useful. So,
Yeah.
right.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so. Okay, yeah, so let's just briefly mention some of the features and capabilities of these messaging apps. They have really come a long way from just, using them to text. We have sort of kind of gathered information about 6 of the apps, and you can find them in this document. Jenny, can you put that in the
I'm going to
chat?
put,
Okay,
yep,
thank
I'm
you.
getting it. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'll keep chatting away. Yeah, and basically, just kind of as a breakdown, they allow really nice communication, quick communication. The teacher can quickly communicate something to the class. The teacher and an individual student can communicate with each other. And of course, you have the student-to-student interaction, which is also possible. So this is really nice for various fast communications. Then messaging, right? I think we're all familiar with this, as is our students. For example, gives us a fast way and a familiar way to reach out to our students if they're struggling. Another nice aspect is the polls. We can share polls with our students. Just a quick question, how are they doing on this homework, or did they understand something, right? But you can get really quick feedback, especially between classes, on how they're doing. And then it's more than just text or polls. Students and teachers can share files, screenshots, reactions, voice, and video. All right, and now Jenny's going to tell us a little bit more about these things.
Yeah, so just looking at some of these, and I will say the document itself includes the Zoom chat, like we talked about, GroupMe, WhatsApp, Discord, Slack, and Signal, and they all have a variety of levels of functionality. I would say GroupMe is probably the least, I don't want to say useful, but it has minimal functionality. There's not a lot of organization you can do with it. There's not a lot up to like Slack and Discord, which are designed specifically. Well, Discord's a slightly different animal. If you've used the Discord chat on or Discord in for MYFest, you might have seen there's a whole lot more to it than these apps, but it is a popular one for certain groups. Anyway, so one of the things is group and direct messaging. You can answer questions on demand. Now I put on demand in quotes, and I have a little note down here to say when you say on demand, you need to specify, look, I'm available on this app until 9 o'clock, at which time my notifications go off and I don't check it again till the next day. So set your boundaries, set your limits. But, if you have a student who's struggling and, maybe classroom on campus students not as big, but if you're teaching online students and you have someone who's struggling to get the work done and they have a limited window for when they can work because they're working full time and going to school online, it gives you that sort of on-demand support. It could also encourage peer-to-peer support. Someone could put a question out there in the group and another student could answer it, before the teacher even sees it. It's a way to build community, which I think we all struggle with a little bit, but having that, you could have it announcements. So I would not send an announcement related to class through a messaging app, but I might send a notification going, hey, just posted an announcement that has some, tips for this week's homework. Don't forget to log in and check it out. Or reminding them of deadlines that are coming up. Have you been working on the paper? We don't want it to be a surprise when the deadline shows up in 2 weeks. You can share links, documents, images, and short videos. If you start getting 3 questions from students about something going on with the homework, you could make a quick video, share that out, and it goes in. So we're thinking more of a just-in-time type learning resources. Those reactions and polls give you a way to check in, after class. Saw a lot of blank stares at the end of class today, you know, which of these topics was confusing to you, and have them answer in a poll, so understanding checks, informal feedback, or encouraging participation. You walk out of class and go, hey, no, you didn't, send somebody a message and say, if you didn't get a chance to talk in class today, but you have thoughts on this, share them in the chat. Support group work. You can put them into subgroups where they can coordinate if they're working on a group project. And it goes above and beyond texting. You can do voice and video communication, and also notifications. We all know students don't like to check email, but they are addicted to that little red circle on their phone showing that they've got that notification. So there was that one. All right. Now, here's our little red flags. Obviously, most of these tools, unless they have like a Zoom license, or some campuses have a Slack license, aren't necessarily governed by the university, so you sanctioned, so you're going out of that. So you need to keep in mind the different laws regulating that. Some of them may require a phone number. I think most of the ones we listed, the phone number didn't necessarily show. Some you have to put the phone number in, but it shows up by username. So you've got that, but be aware before you pick one of what information is shared, and what data is collected, because that's always a concern as well. There's also, some schools you have the rules about the data retention and deletion, what happens to that data, and also boundaries. You can think about it. You have that phone, well, all of a sudden you're always available. So you have to figure out what works for you. And also student boundaries. When we were having our talk about the Zoom chat, and one of the teachers said she used WhatsApp with one of her classes, and the students kind of forgot she was there and started complaining about her. And she had to send the little guys, this is the class chat. So, again, and I will throw boundaries in also, just to bring that up, of students can get pretty informal in these chats. So you have to figure out what level of that formality are you okay with, and how do you want to handle that? So just based on rules, issues, concerns, things you should never ever put in one of these chats, anything related to a grade or an assignment score, any kind of feedback on something they've done, and any personal student information has no business being put into these apps by you, and encourage the students also. This is not the way to communicate this. It's something to think about. And then we can go on to the next one, which is on accessibility. That's also a concern. They aren't necessarily accessible or governed in the same way that school sanctions tools are, so you need to be aware of that. From what I've understand, most of them are screen reader capable, and compatible. A lot of them do not have alt text, or captions or transcripts, so that's a concern. You want to be conscientious of that. So if you have someone in your class that needs like an alt text or that sort of thing, then you want to set those standards up right from the beginning. I'm sharing this image and include the text description of the image, and then encourage your students to do the same. And I think that's actually a great way to be inclusive and model inclusivity, but it's something to be aware of. Other things that might consider is if you get like rapid conversation flow, or bing, 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 all these things are coming through, that notification overload can be overwhelming for some people. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, the informal communication norms, where we use our little, and I think, listen, I think there's a place for that. And we want to be an accessible person, but that respect, you have to figure out what level of respect you're comfortable with. And if you're using any kind of third-party integration with it, that's also something you need to be aware of.
All right. Yeah. So we've just, given you some information, some input, some thoughts, and we would like to send you off to breakout rooms to share any thoughts, concerns, issues that come to mind when you think about using these messaging apps for your class. This is going to be a short activity, and we're going to do a second breakout room activity later where you have more time in a group. But when you talk to each other, you think about any specific concerns you might have about security or accessibility. You might think about issues that you've experienced. And then we have the slides here, and you are welcome to just briefly type in ideas, right? You don't have to, but we invite you to do so. Is there anyone who would prefer to be in a quiet room?
And I'm looking at numbers. Oh,
Yeah.
lost somebody.
Yes.
So there's 6. So we can either just do this here, or we
Yeah.
could put the
Gonna
hosts and
say, yeah.
co-hosts in, put all of us into a room. Either way.
I would vote just to do it here because there's such a
Okay.
small number of us, if
Yep.
that's okay.
I think that's fine as well. Why don't we take a couple minutes on our own though and just brainstorm concerns and maybe add them and then come back and talk together? Or do you want to throw them out? You know what? Let's just throw them out there. That way we don't have dull, dry, downtime on the video, and I'll type them into the thing.
Okay.
So, for those of you whose brain goes right to what the problems are going to be, what was your reaction when I said, "Oh, you should use messaging apps with your class"? Where do you see problems? Okay.
I had a thought. Yeah, I see Rebecca has blurring of relational lines, for sure. I had another thought, which was, I don't know how all of these work because I haven't used them all, but like in the group chat, you can see what's happening and you can sort of
Mm-hmm.
control what's going on. But what if one student starts connecting with another student in a way that the, second student isn't comfortable with and you
Right.
can't see it because it's not part of the group chat? Like, yeah, you've provided a space for them to
Right.
connect outside of what you can, you know, access. That's just a concern I might
Yeah,
have.
of course.
Hmm.
Inappropriate, what's the word I want to finish that sentence? Inappropriate contact, I guess we'll
Mhm.
Sure.
say that.
Or unwanted or,
Yeah.
Mhm.
like I noticed I was flipping through the document and it
Yeah.
has on Discord, it has something about that, like you can automatically be DM'd by anybody in your
Mhm.
server,
Mhm.
but I think you can change the settings to make that not possible but I don't know if that's true
Mhm.
in some of these other apps.
Right.
I sometimes have had students ask questions about their grade or give me information that is more personal than I think is appropriate in a group chat. So then I just redirect them to a private chat where I ask them whatever I need to ask them in the private chat. FERPA concerns certainly are
Yeah.
huge for messaging apps that
Yep.
somebody is going to give out student ID numbers or phone numbers or addresses or whatever it
Yep.
might be.
Another thought, just generally about privacy. And the other thing I was noticing on the document you all created, thank you, was privacy policies and things like that. So what happens to your data? Where is it going? The student conversations, are they saved anywhere that
Yeah.
might end up being leaked
Mhm.
Yep.
later or whatever, like
Yep.
just because of the instructor incident that happened
Mhm.
recently? Are there things that
Mhm.
might end up
Right.
here that shouldn't?
I was also wondering about would every teacher in like a school or university be on some app, or is it like from your experience, is like one university would all teachers would be using Discord, for example? Or I mean, if the students are in multiple classes and each class is using a different app with a different ding ding ding, and it becomes
Yeah,
so that could be overwhelming
that's a
for some people
great.
with sensory issues. Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah, and I feel like this is one of those things where and there's an article linked in the document as well about how students are using messaging apps, and a lot of
Hmm.
classes have their own little without the teacher types of apps.
yeah.
So that was kind of included in there. Um, so it would be I do feel like going with this, my thoughts are if you have a pedagogical reason to be doing this, then let's think about what's the best app. How do we do that? I could see if
Mm.
I was teaching a business class, I might want to use a Slack as a group chat because then I'm exposing students to a tool that they would potentially be using, in their careers, or other. So I think we do have to think kind of pedagogically about what's the reason for using it.
Right.
One of
Makes
the
sense.
faculty I worked with uses, well, one was using GroupMe, one was using WhatsApp, so you're getting into that, but they were using it in their entry-level English classes because they were struggling with getting students to respond to anything. So they
Yeah.
started this group me and some of the students didn't sign up right away. They were football players. The teacher got one of the other football players in the class to kind of um, peer pressure them into getting into the group me so that they could do the communication. But once she got it going, it actually worked really, really well because these freshmen aren't in the habit of checking their emails and doing all of that, even if it's pointing them out to, hey, registration information just showed up in your email. Make sure
Yeah.
you look today, So you have to have sort of a pedagogical. I think, community building is one area, but having a reason.
One of the other things I think that's important is to have the message history. Is the message history
Yeah.
all there? Because you don't want to have a faculty member who has a complaint
Right.
from a student and it's not documented
Right.
appropriately.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep.
To be honest, I see the positives outweighing
Mhm.
the concerns. Like, but still, it's good to think about these things
Yep.
and keep them in
Yeah.
mind. And yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on. If you come up
Yeah,
with another one, shout it out. We'll stick it in there. But
yeah.
if we do that, we can move on to uh, next level uses. So, um, and these are just some ideas, like the sharing content from the wild. Derek Bruff had a book out of a few years ago called Intentional Tech. And for whatever reason, the example stuck with me. There was a class, it was some sort of biology class that studied birds. And one of the assignments for that class was when students were out and about, they had to take pictures of birds that they found and share them over Twitter. Back when Twitter was actually a nice place to go. So you can tell it's a few years old, but this would be a great way to apply that, right? So I'm teaching a statistics class. So part of your participation grade would just be when you come across statistics in the wild, if you're reading an article and it's using some sort of statistics, share that with the class. Or if I'm in a biology class, maybe looking at um, the plants in the area or the birds or whatever, and getting students to make those connections outside of the classroom, because it's really easy to get students to think about stuff when they're sitting right in front of you, but when they walk away they forget. Or again, we were just learning about this in class, and look, this article popped up, that might be helpful for some of you. Pop that link in there and you see that. Or another one, and this one just kind of, I'd seen this idea other places, but like, we have this reading assignment due Friday, so we're going to read together on Thursday, and between 12 and, noon and 7 p.m., when you're doing the reading, send out those messages. What are you thinking? What struck you? And sort of have a little bit of a group read in a way to read in community while not actually being together. And hey, maybe students would actually do the reading. Someone put in, oh my gosh, that part was so exciting. Wait, I haven't read that. Let me get, so that anyway. So those are just a couple little things I came up with and what we've got. And this is going fast because with the small group, but the next section was for us to brainstorm or crowdsource, which I think that was Heather's slide. So I will I will let you do that
Yeah.
one.
Okay, but I think we're going to do this as a main group.
Yep.
How could we take learning outside the classroom with these messaging apps? Yeah.
And I will type
So I mean, we've
again.
already started, talking about some of the problems, but maybe now focusing on
Yeah.
ideas.
Yep.
So I'm someone who wrote in the poll earlier that I use Canvas comments, and I'm finding it's been a really interesting formative way for me to speak with students whenever they submit something. I just say, and it's almost like it's like a documented text chain for us. And so like if there's something they want me to look for, or if I have a question, and it's just been kind of a in real time way for me to be able to work with students. As much as I despise having to work within that LMS structure, it's been kind of a neat way for us to be able to have a dialogue too.
I
And
love that.
it's also been a way for students to I tell students, what do you want me to look for when I start getting
Mm,
feedback too? So it kind of gives them some autonomy too for, I want you to look for this, or, like I teach technical communication, and sometimes, they'll really struggle with formatting. I don't teach keyboarding. And so I'll say,
sure.
if you couldn't get the formatting right, just tell me the formatting screwed up and then I won't hold it against you. Right. And so it's kind of a way for them too to kind of see that it's kind of an iterative process, but it's also
Mhm.
a way for me to feel like they have a little bit more of a say too in the assessment process. And so that's been kind of a neat way. And I know that's not technically what you're saying, but I've been
Yeah.
kind of using Canvas like a messaging tool.
Yeah. I guess they've changed it now so that you get notifications when people comment. Because for the longest time, it didn't. When I first started teaching in that,
Mhm.
I would make a comment on their thing and students would reply.
Yeah,
And why am I going to
Mhm.
go back and check in there?
exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so,
Mm.
but yeah, that's
I've used messaging apps to connect with students through this particular product, Remind, went to their actual cell phone number, but I didn't have access to the cell phone
right.
number. So it would come up on their phone. And I had a student who was not, she had missed a speech and was not doing well. And so I just sent her a message and said, how are you doing? And this opened up an entire floodgate of conversation about her fear about giving the speech. And then it led to, would you like to have a voice-to-voice conversation? And then she did. And she got through the class and
Yeah.
did just fine. But I honestly believe it was the messaging app
hmm
that provided the line of communication that she was the most comfortable with, at least starting the conversation.
Yep.
So I think it can be a real gate of meeting people where they are.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a nice way to reach students who maybe
Hmm.
have dropped off the radar, maybe students who
Yep.
have stopped coming to class
Yep.
for, and you don't know
Hmm.
why.
Yeah.
Just be like,
Yeah.
hey, I
Yes.
noticed you've been coming. Maybe, is
Hmm.
everything okay? You
Yeah.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Because it is hard with what you get. Like if it doesn't work through the LMS or through
Right.
email, you're kind of out of luck. I usually I always do a starting survey, which this is a little off topic, but I would always say, if you disappear, is there an alternative way I can get a hold of you that I would actually reach you? It's okay if you don't answer this, but
That's a
um,
great
if you
question.
want,
Yeah.
if you want me to reach out and
Hmm.
I'm not hearing back other ways, and a lot of students would, and
Mm.
I used it once to check
Wow.
in on a student. I went, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while and you're not responding to my emails. Are you okay? Should I, what can
Hmm.
I do?" But yeah, but I think this gives you again just it sets you up as somebody who wants who cares.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're not
Agreed.
doing this because you hate your students.
Right. Right. I'll also do it if a student submits something that, for example, isn't quite right in the assignment. I can then text them and say, I cleared your attempt and here's why. Please resubmit
Yeah.
when you have time or whenever you can or before the deadline or whatever my message is, because they're not in the LMS as much as I am, and they're darn sure not in their email as much as I am. And an instant message, they're going to pay more attention to. So. I'll also send my video feedback that way because I do video feedback that I put in the LMS with almost every major
Mm-hmm.
assignment. And if I know they're not looking at it, because I can tell, I'll just say, here's your video feedback. You may not have gotten to the LMS, but here you go.
Wow, that's
Wow.
oh,
I teach faculty. I don't teach students. So I teach students, but they're faculty students. So
right.
yeah.
Yes, same.
Yeah, I think if you like the idea or of using messaging apps with the students, I think it's worthwhile to see if your university already has some kind
Yeah.
of an app. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably for the privacy reasons, probably that's
Right.
probably the best option. I did that actually this morning. I was like, what do
Hmm.
we have?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this might be something to try out next semester. I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it is a step for sure, but it's also, like I said, I've had we're starting a fully online program here. I'm not quite sure why they waited till 2026 to decide it was time to start something fully online, and they're tiptoeing towards it. So I've been trying to look for ways, but I'm like, how do you connect with these students? What can we do? How do we make sure that they feel connected and part of that? Because if they don't, the program's gonna just tiptoe away, and they'll be like, yeah, online's not for us. It's like so.
I think you also have to scaffold the use of the messaging app.
Yeah.
So in my first module, I will say, you need to find our Google Spaces group and you need to say hello. That's the first thing they have to do. So it kind of gets normalized and they know what they need to do, so they know where it is.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I think is important.
Yeah. And that was something that the faculty member that presented to us did. He's like, have
Hmm.
them do something that first week,
Yep.
and then build in ways for them to interact.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that really resonates as I was thinking about the messaging system that we have at our university, which is not what the students would normally
yeah.
have on their phone. So you would need to scaffold like how to use this thing and how to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
download the app to your phone and, somehow have a little assignment about it. So, yeah,
Has
because
anybody used it for small group work? because students are resistant to group work. And
Mm,
then I'm thinking, well, what if I set up spaces for each group or something
Yeah.
that I would be a part of, that then they could communicate with each other?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
mhm,
that was one of the ideas. I said I thought I had that idea too, but I was like, I'm not putting all of these on my
Oh,
um
Yeah. When I have my students be in groups that last the whole semester, like we'll spend
mhm,
part of the first class period where we set up the groups, where they talk
sure.
about how we're going to communicate with each other.
Hmm.
And then my last question there is, how are you going to communicate with each other outside of class if you
mm,
need to?
Mm,
They'll often
mm,
set up
hmm.
a
yeah,
WhatsApp group.
yeah,
mhm,
They'll do that right
Okay.
there in the, but it would be, I'm thinking it would be nice if, if maybe we did it through the university's app instead of, WhatsApp, you know,
Hmm.
something to think about, but yeah.
Faculty don't have access to that app in our institution. Only student services groups
right,
does.
mm,
So. So that's why I use Google Spaces, because Google Spaces is sanctioned by the college.
right.
mm.
Everybody has it, every student has it, and you can get an app for it for your phone. So that
Yeah.
tends to
Yeah,
be a good
yeah.
option for
Say we're a
us.
Microsoft school, so we in theory have
Games.
Teams, but I would not.
Yeah.
I would not. So,
No
but we try to
Teams,
get
no
people.
Teams.
We still have people sharing. Look at this Google Doc I made. I'm like, not supposed to be using Google Docs. We're a Microsoft school. So, but
Yeah.
students also don't have access to online Microsoft here. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm like, so yeah.
What do
Is that
they
not?
use?
They use the desktop version.
Mm.
Oh, so
So
they can't get to
OneDrive, they
OneDrive?
can't get to shared documents. So I have been, since I got here, banging the drum on, we need that. And we're totally off topic now, but,
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. Get us back on track. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you got to look for ways to, and I do feel like things can be very isolating. And
Mhm,
this is a way of building community. But any
mhm.
thoughts on how we could use it just for, I mean, beyond like as community building, like the group reading idea.
I
Anything
love that
come
idea.
to mind for that?
I was
Hmm.
really inspired by the idea of sharing things that you see out in the world. So for example, the birds
Hmm.
idea, and it's going to really depend
Mhm,
on what you teach.
mhm.
I teach philosophy, and I've had in the past an assignment where students just sort of find, philosophical topics or discussions or ideas or whatever out in the world, like in movies or news or whatever. And so that could be, something that they could share through a messaging app. I've done it on an assignment, where you
Right.
actually have to write a short little piece or something, but it would be easier, like as
Yeah.
soon as you find
Yeah.
something, you just share it. I don't know. That's just
Yep.
again, it's going to depend on your discipline.
Mhm.
Yeah, and share the location of something. Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine it depends on who's in your class too. I tend to have
Yeah.
mostly German students in my classes, but also some international students. So I think it could be nice, to have as a little assignment, hey, where's some place that you like to go in the city? Or
Yep.
where's,
Mm,
your favorite place on campus? And, just have,
mhm,
go and take a picture or, share a link um, to the place in the group chat or whatever.
Mhm.
So that could be a way of building community.
mhm, mm. It just reminds me of things that I, for example, will do on Padlet, where I have them post a picture from their
Mhm.
weekend,
Yep.
but they could easily post a picture in the app. Um, that that would be a nice thing to do too.
And And especially if they have the notifications up, then as people post things,
Mhm.
then they'll, instead
Yeah.
of, going to the Padlet or going to this thing, right, it shows up on their
Yeah.
phone like, oh yeah, oh, I have to do that too, and may, kind
Yeah.
of infect the other students and inspire them to to do
Yeah. I
the
think,
thing
and I
you
love
wanted
the
them to do.
idea of where are you right now? Where's the coffee
Yeah,
shop? Because people don't know where people, I think that's a great idea. I love that.
yeah.
Oops. Did I? Okay. Any other thoughts?
I could share the Google Doc maybe on the screen just to kind
Yeah.
of do a quick run
Look at the
through. And
functionality. Yeah.
if something jumps out at you,
Yeah.
we can just stop and talk about it. That
Yeah.
might be an idea.
Also had, while you're setting that up, I wonder
Mhm.
about keeping things going after.
That's
Like I
good.
love that our book circle conversations still go,
Hmm.
and it might be a way for continuity, especially
Mhm.
if you're in a program that, has multiple classes you're taking.
Hmm.
All right, so
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got uh, different tabs. The first one's just a general introduction, and then in each tab below that is just a different app that we took a closer look at. So, for example, the Zoom chat, and you can see we have a little bit of information about the functionality. Now, of course, these apps generally have much more than what we have here. We just kind of put down the highlights. Um, so, yeah.
and yeah, if we found links that were relevant for
Yeah.
that. And then the ideas for using this tool we kind of stuck in there in case people have one.
Yeah.
Since we're sharing it out, versus us telling you, and we were doing the other ideas here. But
Yeah.
if you use it and you have an idea to share, that's kind of what we were thinking.
And they group me here. Um, and as Jenny already mentioned, it's kind of a basic tool, but it would work.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just like
WhatsApp.
search
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
not
Go ahead.
good. That's okay. Just like it's very, very basic search. So if you're trying to find an older conversation, it's going to be tough in GroupMe.
Yeah, WhatsApp. I think we're pretty much familiar with, and probably most of our students. Yeah. Discord. Did you want to say a little bit more to Discord, Jenny? You mentioned earlier that it's a little bit different than the others.
It is. I tried it during the pandemic. I set up a Discord. I should say, my son helped me set up a Discord server. He uses it all the time. He and his friends are scattered, but they play video games together over Discord. They love it. So during the pandemic, I kind of set up Discord office hours where I would just be online on the Discord, and if students wanted to pop in to ask questions, they could. I didn't use it as much for the messaging functionality at the time. But it does take a little bit to set up the server and do all of that. But you can send messages right through Discord, just like any other messaging app once it's set up. Yeah, that was funny. I had one student who absolutely loved it. He showed up all the time out of 50. So we were calling that one a failed experiment. It worked well for him. So,
Okay. Yeah. And then there's Slack.
which there should be an article. I think we added, yeah.
Yeah.
Slack had
Right.
some ideas on setting it up for higher education.
Yes, that's right. Also, there was some information about making it more accessible or for people with disabilities, for example. So there's
Right.
that.
And I do know with the continuity issues, Slack has like I don't remember if you have a free account, your things disappear after a certain amount of time. So that's something to be aware of. It is not a forever app unless you pay. So that's
Yeah. And then Signal is one that's really good in terms of privacy. It has also an interesting feature. It has a stories feature where the post will just stay for 24 hours. So I guess that's something if you just want a really quick assignment and you don't want it to be saved forever, that might be something interesting. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah,
great.
and I think of the ones that we have here, I think this is the nicest in terms of privacy.
Yeah. That's all my local community groups that do political-ish stuff use Signal for communications. So, all right, guys, thanks for coming out. We don't have
Yeah,
anything more planned.
yeah,
You never know
yeah,
how long breakout rooms are going to take, and since we didn't do any, that bought us
yeah. That's
some
okay.
time back. But no, I love the ideas, and I just think this is something that's not getting enough attention. I
I
think people
agree.
are using it, but they're not talking about how they're using it, and they're not thinking about how they're using it. And I think pedagogically, we could be doing more if we're using it wisely.
Wisely and in such a way that we ourselves don't get overwhelmed.
Yes. Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. Heather, can I ask you a curious coffee conversation
Hmm?
once we turn the recording off?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. All
So
right. Thank you
should
for
we
coming.
Rebecca's just put into the chat the feedback link, so if you can take a
Yep.
moment to provide feedback on the session, that'd be great. And thank you so much to Heather
Yep.
and Jenny. I agree. I think this is something I hadn't thought about as much as I could, and so it was really, really helpful to get these ideas and inspiring.
Yeah.
Okay, let me figure
Thank you
out
for
how to
coming.
Yep.
turn off the recording.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too,
Thank you.
Renee. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.